Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back. We finally made it back to Ditch Witch Diaries, and we are excited. And it's so nice to see the lovely Raven. And
It's lovely to see you.
thank you. Very nice. And so we're kind of starting a little bit of a series. And so let's just get started. And I've got a little slide for the introduction, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So let me just pause for a moment. So we're going to do a series about getting the ick out of your space. And I'll tell you how that kind of came about is that I have a friend who I'm going to be moving. And I'm going to be moving in with her. And she was kind of struggling. She felt like there was some yuckiness in her space. Like there was just a bunch of things that were irritating her, that were kind of drawing her attention, that she might need to kind of just clear the air, clear the space. So that's how this came about. So she had somebody come over and clear the space, and of course we have our thoughts on that because that's what we do. And I shared them with her, and I'm like, wow, this would be like a good, this was like the second manifesting thing. So the first one was that I was thinking to myself, this would be a great, I'd been wanting to get back and do more Ditch Witch Diaries, and all my books had been moved to another location. So I was like, but I can't do that. And then I was talking to my friend, this other friend, about this scenario, this get the ick out of your space kind of idea, and throwing it out that that's kind of what we did. And then immediately, Raven texted me immediately and said, let's do it. And so here we are. So
Yeah, that was divine timing.
it was so crazy. Like if I speak things into being, I speak them into being. There's been a couple
Uh,
things on that roll lately, which are just, it's just so nice. I love when that happens.
yeah, that's nice.
So, like I said, welcome back. We've missed you.
Uh,
So, there's going to be four parts to this little series. We discussed it, and I'll go through the parts, and then Raven, you can tell us a little bit about what you think about the different parts here. About like you
cool.
have like an analogy that seems to work really well.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So first, we're going to talk about banishing, and then we're going to talk about cleansing, and then protecting, and then bringing in the positive, good energy. So, take it away.
Yes, nice. So, I feel like, and I think that you'll probably agree that you can do these individually. Like, you don't necessarily have to do all four if you're gonna cleanse, you don't necessarily have to do all of the other ones. But when we're talking about like a detox, essentially, like a space detox, I kind of like to do all four of these. And the analogy that I came up with kind of on the fly when we were discussing it was like cleaning. So banishing to me is like getting rid of specific things. And so in the way that I practice, I wouldn't do like a general banishing. Like I would banish maybe specific types of negative thoughts or banishing specific like actions or whatever, but it's a little bit more specific. It's not just like a general overall banishing. And so for me, it's kind of like after you cook, like I make a stew and then banishing is like throwing away the specific chunks of food, right? Like throwing away the onion ends and the veggie ends. And I'm like putting things away and getting rid of them. And then cleansing is more like wiping off the counters and sweeping once you're done throwing away all of the scraps of food, or doesn't have to be throwing away, I guess, composting, whatever. But it's like the general cleaning. I'm like, all of the specific things that I wanted to clean and get rid of are gone. And so now I'm going to sweep, I'm going to wipe the counters down, everything. I'm going to kind of put everything back where it belongs. And then the protecting is just to protect your space. And then I think that once you kind of do like a big time cleaning, it's always good to to redo some protection energy. And then bringing in the good would be like, after I'm done cleaning, I always light a candle. And I don't necessarily know why I do that, but that was like the thing. Like all the roommates that I've had are like, oh, I can tell you just clean your bathroom, or I can tell you just clean the kitchen because there's a candle lit. And so that's like bringing in the good, right? Everything is clean, everything's put away, everything's where it belongs. We've protected, and so now we're just bringing in the good stuff. And so that's kind of the analogy that I think about when I look at the difference between these steps.
I love that. I love that
Yeah.
because I was like, banishing and cleansing, it can that can get dicey, and then there's like a lot of crossover in these areas
Mm.
too. Like
Hmm.
even with herbs, there's a lot of crossover with various herbs. And you know what? I just want to show you, and I should have had it like sitting here. Let me see if I've got it right here because I have. Oh yeah, right here. So I've been on like a book binge. And I did get a book that was on banishing, and I just want to draw people's attention to it because I'm really impressed with it. And when this and here when we're going to talk about kind of how we're going to do it right now, like next, but like how the month, because we're going to spend a month on each one of these. And so when we talk about banishing more, I'm going to draw from this, but this really had, I feel like a complete. First of all, let me show you the book. Let's see. The book is right here.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So it's Banishing Spells, Rituals, and More. And it's by Blue Witch of the West. And you can get it on Amazon. And they do this other like witchy herbs A to Z that I think I'm gonna like pop for. It's a little
Nice.
bit more expensive, but this has like an all it has like every banishing herb like that's ever been used for
Mm.
banishing ever. Like it has like
Hmm.
a cumulative list. It's very interesting, and I really would encourage this book if you want to read more about how to do banishing and about like the variety of different herbs. Although they don't go into each individual herb, I think they leave that more for their witchy herbs from A to Z.
Mm.
This is like it, and there's a lot of like things in here that's like not for the novice. I was like, yeah, because they're intense, like some of these things. So it's a good
Mm.
book. Anyway,
Nice.
so I just wanted to bring that up. So this is the format here right here. So um what we thought we would do is, like I said, 1 month for per like section of this. And so this month, of course, is banishing. And then each week with like we're gonna talk not each week, but 2 of the 4 weeks, we're gonna bring an herb or a plant each. So, and then the next week after that, we'll discuss banishing or whatever topic it is in greater depth and give practical ways to use that plant or to use like general plants, because you'll see like what I'm bringing in may not be accessible for everybody at this point. And then we'll go back to the herb and then back to either more practical application or more discussion just about banishing, the issues surrounding banishing, things like that. Um, so we're gonna be putting we're gonna be focusing greater focus on this theme and still talk about all the witchiness about the energy of the plants. We're gonna, of course, tell all its stories. We're gonna focus a little bit less on the medicinal qualities of the herb unless it directly relates. And let me tell you something that I did.
Uh-oh.
So I thought I was gonna do an herb, and I thought that, and I looked on our list, and apparently our list is not perfectly up to date because it was not
Oh,
highlighted on our list
yeah.
of things that we had done. And I thought I had looked it up and done everything. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you which one it was. Even it was juniper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I did like almost everything for it and then realized that I just had repeated like all the work that I had done when we did it first.
Oh no. And you know what? I think I was thinking that too because we were talking about the herb list and I was like, I think we're pretty updated, but I don't know if we updated the last couple ones that we did. And then I was probably like, oh no, we probably did.
Yeah, apparently we did not actually. So,
Oh.
I it's interesting because we did it together with wormwood and juniper, and I'll put a link to that
Mm,
one if you guys are interested in juniper because it too is a banishing herb. But
yeah.
the point of that was that it fit so neatly because the medicinal qualities of juniper actually like are banishing. Like they get rid of it's
Mm,
like a diuretic, so it banishes
yeah.
water.
Yeah.
It's like an abortifacient. It like will
Hmm.
cause miscarriages. So it
Yeah.
like will like it expels,
I was
it
like,
pushes.
pennyroyal. I'm gonna do pennyroyal. That's one of my favorite banishing. And I was like, oh, we already did pennyroyal. It was all about how it's an abortifacient. And I was like,
Exactly.
we've done a lot of good ones.
If it plays in or if it's like part of this, then we'll do
Yeah.
that. And I'll tell you why, like mine probably we'll talk about that anyway. So let's just jump into banishing and I will stop sharing my screen and then we will let Raven start
Ah,
doing hers. So
okay.
yay. I'm so excited because this is a secret. She would not
Yes.
tell me her herb. So this is like I'm like on pins and needles.
Yeah, and um like I said, hold on, let me like pull it up. Like I said, I don't know. You might fully agree with me on this. I think that you will, but there's a chance that you could go a different way, which is fine, to each their own. But I'm excited to share this one. I knew immediately what I was gonna. So I think I told you I was kind of stuck between a couple of them, and then I was like, oh, I want to do something that has this specific quality, medicinal quality.
Mhm.
And then once I got that in my head, I knew exactly what I was gonna do. So, okay, let me get this ready. Mm. Okay. So we today, ooh, hold on, let me move my little video feed. Today we are going to talk about clay.
Ooh.
Yes.
Woo! Oh my
I don't
gosh,
know
I'm
what.
super excited about clay.
Yay.
Oh my
Good.
gosh.
It
That
looks
is
like it kind
awesome.
of went weird. Oh, it's weird that it transitions that way. Well, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
So clay. Now we're gonna do general. We're just talking about general clay, but there's a lot of different types of clay. You can also go and like wild harvest your own clay. So we're just generally talking about clay.
I love that.
Okay. So let's talk about some folklore. Now I'm not going to go into like specific mythology because a lot of different cultures utilize clay, like a lot of different ancient cultures utilize clay. So we're kind of talking about it in a general sense. So first we have poppets. Now, when it comes to clay, the property that I really focus on when it comes to banishing is the pulling. So it's like when it's pulling something out, and so you can put something in the clay and the clay holds on to it, and then you get rid of the clay.
I love
So this yeah, so we're going to talk about this in a couple different ways. But first is like clay poppets. This is like one of the most common ways that clay has been used in this type of thing. So, also called sympathetic. Now, the or figure or image or effigy, it's called a lot of different things. But it's a where you use it in a sympathetic way, which essentially is kind of like a mirrored way. So anything that you do to the clay can be done to this other thing or person or energy or whatever the case may be. That's why it's sympathy. And so the figure is placed in sympathy with the target of like that magical operation. And then whatever happens to that thing, that clay, is what happens to the people or whatever. And so the earliest examples of this come from ancient Egypt, actually. And then after Egypt, it kind of just spread throughout like a lot of the other parts of the ancient world. And so with this, we had figurines that were like inscribed with the names or symbols representing anybody who was considered an enemy of the Egyptian state. So it wasn't used like person to person necessarily. It was used to protect like the people of Egypt. And that was the way that it was supposed to be used, anyway. And so then once you had this clay figurine, they did a lot of stuff to it, decapitated it, pierced it, drilled holes with it, wrapped it with ropes and vines, and then suspended them. They would even we have evidence that they would put it underneath their door hinge posts so that every single time somebody opened or closed the door, it would grind it. And then also people would put it in their shoe. And so, like on the bottom of their shoe, so that every step they took was grinding it more and more and more. Love it. Love it.
Love it. Me too.
I
All these
know.
things. I immediately have a million things, and we're not going to talk about like what we're going to do with it, but I can't wait until you talk about like banishing. Like I've
I
got so many ideas for using clay and banishing. It's like it just like busted my head apart thinking about it. I'm like, oh
I
my God,
know.
this is
I know.
amazing.
And like I was telling you before we started recording, I already have like my presentation for next week ready to go when we talk about like uses of clay in this way. And I had to like stop myself because I did like, I talked about two, spent a lot of time on like two, and then I was like, okay, that's it. But you could just go on and on and on with this once you're thinking about like the pulling or like the absorption and the holding properties, because you are banishing that thing to this thing of clay, right? And so you can do whatever you want to this clay. Yeah, so lots of good stuff. And then, oh yeah, so then it kind of spread out, right? So we see the focal point with this type of working in Egypt, and then it spread out to a lot of other areas. And then it kind of also translated from being used as like a group. So like a bunch of clay figurines would be made and then handed out to all the people of Egypt for the same purpose, right? And but now it's kind of translated into people using it for their own personal reasons. Um, we also have ninth century Irish law that describes a ritual where poets would curse an unjust king by chanting satires and like mean things while piercing poppets, essentially. I don't think that they called them poppets, but by piercing like these clay figurines. And they would pierce it specifically with hawthorn, which I love, like hawthorn thorns, which are pretty gnarly. And then you can also look at it in terms of like protective and baneful together. So again, if we're talking about like the how you can banish this energy or whatever into this hunk of clay, and then the clay can hold on to that so that it also adds some type of protection. And so we have seen throughout time that different cultures have made sculptures of like animals or gods or just creatures that they imagine themselves that look really fierce, and then they would hide these little clay figurines throughout their homes, especially under their floors, to ward off evil spirits. And so the clay was there to like ward off evil spirits, but if an evil spirit did come into the home, then the clay would absorb it up. So now we see this kind of cross-sectional design of both baneful and protection. And then we also kind of have to talk about the creation myth. I just wanted to kind of mention this because creation myth, there's a lot of creation myths that involve clay. And so I felt like it would be a disservice to like not really talk about it, but it's still talking about the holding if you think about it. So we have, I kind of give you a little bit of a list here, but the idea is you would sculpt this clay and then either breathe life into it or put life somehow into it. And so we still have this idea of the clay holding this thing, right? And so in this instance, it's not necessarily vanishing, but we still have that holding property of it. And instead of getting rid of it like you would with vanishing, now it's just being held and the clay becomes the body.
Well, and also that
Mm,
in the it's worth noting that there is there are two creation myths in Genesis.
Mm.
And this is actually using the clay or the dirt of the land is the actual first creation myth. And
Mm.
it is the myth of like God the Father creating Adam and Lilith.
Oh yeah.
That's when he creates Lilith, is because he makes
Mm.
them out of he makes man and woman out of the clay of the earth.
Right. And she would
Yeah,
not submit,
she
and
would
so we
not.
love her.
We love her to death.
We love her. Demoness.
Although there's a special place in my heart for that Eve who took the advice of the snake.
Mm,
Which
honesty.
is like she's pretty rad herself. She was
Yeah.
like, you know what? She like gets all the props for eating of the tree of knowledge. Like she
Hmm.
wanted to have knowledge instead of
Yeah.
being like a dumb little rib.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Yeah. I love there's so many like stories and like jokes and stuff about the creation myth. I love the one that's like, are we sure that Adam didn't eat the apple because he has the chunk of apple in his throat still and like oh, I love it.
No,
So good.
there's like some little thing about that too, like about like maybe he lied because he had
Yeah.
like some like
Yeah.
little like
And then
twist
blamed
on
her.
it.
That's the thing, right? Like he ate it and blamed the woman.
Exactly.
Oh man. Good stuff. Okay, so we're gonna switch from poppets into like clay containers now. So burying clay containers to trap spirits and like just evil or not good stuff. This kind of centered around or was not centered around, but this was big in like Middle Eastern and Mediterranean areas, like ancient areas. And so clay jars or pots were used to trap in like bad spirits or envy, which is kind of like the along the same lines as the evil eye, or sickness or anything that's bad. So again, we see it as banishing because it's holding. You're putting this thing away from you into this pot, and it's holding the clay is holding onto this thing, which is keeping it away from you, and so hence banishing. Um, what else? Oh, in some traditions, you would bury it because it's believed that as the clay over time like broke down and became again with like one with earth, that process neutralized this bad energy and like transmuted it. But in some other traditions, you would actually throw it into the fire. And so the idea here is the fire destroys the pot and the spirit at the same time, which I love because we know that I am of the firm belief that in my practice, fire destroys. And
Yeah.
so that's why I don't ever burn things that like I want to put out into the world. Like a lot of people, the bay leaf burning is a popular thing, right? Write
I
your
know.
manifestation on the bay leaf and burn it to send it out to the world. But in my mind, fire destroys. And so I love this.
Yeah. Well, and then yeah, some people like make things just to burn them, and I can't bear to do that. So I don't know, like
Yeah.
I can't bear it. Like it's
Yeah.
like, things that I love are not to be thrown in the fire.
I know. I feel like I would have like a hard time spending all of this time making this beautiful pot just to like throw it into the fire. But
I
yeah,
feel like I had the inclination immediately to bury it. So I'm not.
yeah, I do. I like the burying.
Let
You
the
know
earth
what
care of
I I
too.
kind of like. We're gonna talk about this a little bit next week, but I like the idea of somehow burning it, maybe like putting it in cloth or something, burning that, and then putting the ash into the clay pot to bury. Kind of
Mm,
like that.
yep.
I don't know. What else? Oh yeah, and then same thing. The Art Institute had this really cool like post where they were talking about how tribes in Africa, like ancient tribes in Africa, would do something similar where they would use like clay pots and rituals to like protect against individuals, but also against like the tribe as a whole. So we see it kind of connecting back to the ancient Egypt. Okay, so then we have amulets. So we've talked about poppets, we've talked about jars, and now we have amulets. Now, clay amulets or figurines, but usually when we're talking about figurines, we're talking about like a figurine that's like carved into an amulet. Otherwise, I would call it a poppet.
Love.
But we see
I
that
want
people,
those. I feel
I
covered. There's
know.
some of those in there that I just feel covered. Like the the woman's figuring up
Yeah,
there, and then the one on
yeah.
the left, the woman standing up or the figure
Mm,
standing up.
yeah.
Like I feel very like I
I don't even really know what this is, but I really like this one for some reason.
that's
I
nice
like this
too.
one too. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, the like goddess figurine was really good too.
Mm.
So these amulets were used to same ideas, repel illness, repel bad spirits or curses. If somebody was sick, then they could kind of put their sickness into it and then destroy it or bury it. So you would use the jars and the amulets in a similar way usually. Oh, so then we also have the oh man, I looked up how to say this.
Phoenician.
Phoenician, thank you. We've the Phoenician clay beads. Now, Phoenician clay beads looked like this, where they were shaped into beads and then they would be carved with eyes. And a lot of people online, when I was looking into this, were saying that they were the same thing as the Nazars, but they're not. The Nazars came later, way later. And it's believed that they kind of stemmed from this idea of these clay beads. But it's kind of the similar idea where you would, with an Nazar, you just have like the one eye to repel like the evil eye. We talked previously, by the way, about how this is not the evil eye. Like this is the
No,
Nazar, the
it
protector. And
repels the
when people
evil
are wearing
eye.
these beads and call it like their evil eye, I'm like, you don't want the evil eye. That's what you're trying to
Exactly.
protect
You're
against.
repelling
What
the
are you
evil eye.
doing? You're calling the evil eye into you. You don't
Turn the
want
evil
that.
eye.
Yeah.
And going to Greece, and so I they have those
Uh,
everywhere. So
yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
coming back with some new
And
ones.
usually they're made with glass, which I
Yeah, they
really
are.
like too,
Exactly.
because then like the idea is once it breaks, then the job is done and you need a new one. And I
Mhm.
like that concept.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I like that. So similar ideas. I would call these still amulets, even though they're technically beads, both of them. Okay, so then we have like witch bottles and clay seals. Now this came a little bit later, but we have this idea of like the witch bottle, which I don't think we've talked about them before, but
We haven't. We should.
they're it yeah, we should actually. Very, very general term if you're not familiar with them. They can be used for protection, they can be used for banishing, they can be do different witch bottles for different things. But with this one, the idea is you would make your bottle and then put clay around the seal to help seal it. And again, the seal acts as like a barrier, keeping that stuff trapped in the bottle so that it can't get out of the bottle. So we saw a lot of them throughout history where they would just put clay around the seal, but in other ones they would put clay over the whole bottle, which I like that better actually,
Hmm.
as like full like warding protection kind of thing. And so then the bottle could be buried like under your home or your doorstep if it's something good that you want to keep close, or far away if it's something that you want to get rid of or banish. Yeah, witch bottles are interesting because I feel like this is where there can be a lot of differences of opinion between practitioners on like what should and shouldn't go in the bottles, which is I love that like debate topic.
Yeah,
I think
me
that
too.
that's like a really interesting
Do
thing.
you have opinions? I mean,
I think that so
like
again, to
honey
each their
jar. There's
own.
honey jars and
There's honey jars, yeah, all kinds of stuff. And
bring.
I think
Yeah,
that whatever you want, I'm never one to like, what do they say now? Yuck anybody's yum. I'm never one to like tell anybody that they should or shouldn't do anything. We have talked about this before. You and I are both very much like to each their own when it comes to your practice.
of course.
But I believe there are definitely things that I would and would not put in depending on what I'm trying to do. So if I'm trying to like banish, I would never put my blood in it ever. If I want to do protection or something, then I would put my own blood. Some people think that including blood is like too much and that's too witchy and they don't like it. I am not of that mindset. I think if it's in me, then I'm going to put it in my practice. Um, if it's for something like banishing, I would probably use like spit or urine or something else.
Maybe like period blood.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, actually, is because a lot of people use their period blood as like something we've talked about this before, but it's been a while. They use it when they're doing something like with beauty rituals and stuff, and that's great. But my menstrual cramps are life-changingly bad,
They're
like
horrible.
absolutely
And anyways, it's like
debilitating.
a yeah, and it's not only do you have horrible like barfy that
Yeah,
horrible of
yeah,
cramps, but also it's like it's a waste product.
yeah,
It's the sign that you aren't it's actually not it's blood, but it's not. It's like the sloughing of your uterine lining.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
your body getting rid of something. So
yeah.
I think it equates more to like urine or fecal matter.
Yeah, agreed. I very much agree. Yeah, so something like banishing, I would like hexing. I mean, I don't do a lot of hexes, but like something like that, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't really think that anything necessarily is off limits. I think that
Okay.
whatever I'm feeling called to do, I'm gonna do. And I think you feel the same, right? I don't think
I
that
do.
anything from you is off limits in
It
your
isn't,
practice.
but and I want to tell you though this interesting little tidbit about nails though. If you
Mm,
can, I've heard it said that you should get like old nails or nails that rust that don't have like the coating on them because
yeah,
like that rusting and that like oxidation is like part of like the like
yeah. I will actually put nails in environments that like help facilitate rusting if I don't have my own rusty nails. Like I'll put
exactly.
it in like acidic or like water or things like that to yeah. I agree. And if you want to if new nails are the only thing they have
And
available, then
use them.
that's
Yeah,
fine. But
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just heard like if you're gonna like, I don't know. Sometimes when I'm working on something very particular, like I will go
Mm,
out of my way to like find what I want to find, you know? So if
yeah.
it's your deal,
Yeah.
I know some people are really all about just like whatever you have on hand, and
Yeah.
to some extent I am too. But like if there's
Yeah.
things that I like am drawn to
Yeah.
feeling like they're an integral part of whatever I'm doing, then
Yeah.
whatever. So.
Same. And if I know it's attainable, I just have to put in extra work, I'll put in that extra work. But if
Exactly.
it's something like I'll have to order specially and wait like 2 months to get, I'll find something else. But if it's like just, if I have to drive 20 minutes or half an hour to go to some weird store to get it, like I'll do that. And I think that that's part of, I was actually just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, but I consider that so I think that in order for my like spells and stuff to work, it requires sacrifice, some type of sacrifice, right? If I am going to like prick my finger, then that's part of the sacrifice. But I also think that spending time to go get the items that I want is considered part of the sacrifice. I'm sacrificing my time, and that's going to kind of return to me in how it all works out.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I know there was it was interesting because like the last thing that like I got a job and I did this like spell to like get for money and to bring in money, which
Mm,
I feel completely worked 100%. But one
yeah.
of the things that I was really drawn to for some reason was this money rice. And so
Mm.
I like went and collected all like the little things to make money rice, which was really cool.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
rad. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's important. I think that putting time in is important because that shows the universe or the energy or whatever you
Putting it
want
out
to
there.
call it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it shows that you're serious and you're willing to put in the time to actually get the return.
That's right.
Yeah. What else? Oh, and then we also have the idea of like clay or earth or dirt in general used in like ritual burial associated with cleansing. So now we also have a little bit of cleansing as well, which we touched on when we talked about like putting the jars back into the earth, burying them to kind of neutralize or like transmute them. And so we also saw this. And so we can see that clay is actually used for a lot of different things, which makes sense. It is part of the earth. And so it can be used to like return negative things into the earth to neutralize. It absorbs, so it can pull out, it can hold the energy. It does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there isn't this isn't really pertaining to banishing, but because
Kind
it's
of it
clay,
does though. Like I was
yeah,
hoping
it
you
kind of
would
does.
touch on this because it kind of does. And I was gonna
Well,
like
yeah, like
in
when we're
a
talking
couple
about,
ways.
yeah, I mean, other than like the absorption property, because we can talk about like making a clay mask and then sitting and meditating on what it is you're trying to do away with, and then the clay mask maybe like absorbing that as you're thinking about it and stuff. So it does a little bit.
Just to draw out stuff from
Yeah,
like negative, like
yeah.
acne or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So we have the use of clay, especially specific types of clay that they would put into their makeup and mixtures for lips and cheeks and eyes and all kinds of stuff. And they would use it to protect against the sun. They would also use it as like an insect repellent, but at the same time use it to as like a spiritual protectant. And then we also have applying clay and mud as masks for detoxifying, both like from a health sense, like detoxifying your body, pulling out like impurities and stuff, but also for like beauty, like pulling out toxins like from your skin. And then also again we see like the spiritual aspect as well, especially in when it came to like medicinal baths, where you would take these baths and be coated in clay while you're sitting in this bathtub as part of like your body cleanse, physical cleanse, but also a spiritual cleanse. And then we also have, clay is applied as masks during cleansing rites. So again, we're still seeing this tied to cleanse, which is a little bit different from banishing, but along the same lines. Slightly different, but similar, which we've talked about. So extracting toxins, bringing balance, both in the spiritual self and the physical self. Oh, and then we also have historical use of mixing clay with butter or animal fat instead of like water, like we would now. They mix it with oil or fat and then use that as the protective coating, which I like.
Well, and red ochre clay has a long history of being used for witchy practices. In fact,
Mm.
it was in the book, what's it called? Clan of the Cave Bear, the series featured red ochre clay.
I have heard so many people talk about that series, but it's not my genre typically, but I don't like series. But I've heard a lot of people really love that
It
series.
was great. It's well,
Yeah.
because it's like about like what we're into. So it's interesting to
Mm,
like, yeah.
that's cool.
It's like a medicine bag that's like an otter. It's
Uh,
it's rad. It's rad.
interesting. Hmm. Maybe I'll give it a shot at some point.
Exactly.
We also have the Aztecs, which used clay mass to purify and heal. So
It was a
again,
keeper. She had a bag that was made out of an animal, like that they had.
uh,
Yeah, it was really yeah, it was amazing.
good stuff.
Anyway,
Nice.
go ahead.
Yeah, so same uses, same properties, but I'm just continuing to talk about it because we can see that it was all over the world, really, all over the world. People really understood the benefits of using clay. The Aztecs considered clay a gift from the gods, which is pretty cool. And then ceremonies of renewal and self-care in like indigenous tribes of South America and the Amazon. Let's see, is there something else? And then yeah, so communal bathing, we see communal bathing again. And then we also have women specifically applying the facial mask to exfoliate, absorb impurities. So again, same concepts, just everywhere. Everywhere really kind of innately understood the benefits of clay.
That it sucks stuff out, sucks
Yeah,
negative out.
yeah. And
Yeah,
then I don't talk about this because it's not necessarily beauty. I think I'll talk about this a little bit in medicinal, but also using, I do talk about it in medicinal, but using it as like a poultice or something to like pull out anything that's like an infection or something in your skin if you have a splinter or whatever. It's a pulling, it has pulling properties. Um, don't know if there was anything. Oh, even for brides and purification rituals, we didn't really, actually, I didn't even think about it. Adding like purification to our space, but I think that that's kind of along the same lines as cleansing, at least in my mind.
Me too.
Okay, so then we have medicinal. So, I'm not getting too specific with this. We do have a couple of slides, but as we said, we're kind of more focusing on like the folklore and the magical properties. But we have the Ebers, and this is, we've talked about this so many times already. It's the Egyptian like medicinal text, which has come up so many times. But it talks about clay a lot, especially red ochre, but it's used in poultices mixed with honey, plant oils, or animal fats, which we've mentioned or I mentioned previously. But it was believed to have protective properties and healing properties like medicinally on the skin. So it was used a lot for wound treatment, like ointments or powders mixed with something like the plant oil or the animal fat to help with skin infections, to help clear wounds and ulcers. It was also pretty astringent, and so it had some like antiseptic qualities, so promoted healing, all this good stuff. And then also anti-inflammatory. Now, current literature doesn't really show any use of anti-inflammatory like internally, like as in ingesting it. We'll talk about that in a second. But we know that in the past it has been like consumed as like anti-inflammatory, but it's also topically anti-inflammatory as well. So like if you twist your ankle and it's a swollen ankle, you can put it on your ankle. So then we have the absorptive properties, which we've talked about. So it can bind to toxins and bacteria and heavy metals and a whole bunch of stuff that can help, like it binds to that and then it gets rid of it. Hence the banishing, right? It absorbs it and then we kick it. Now, internally, again, we'll circle back to this concept of taking it internally. I wouldn't recommend it, but externally, it's a beautiful thing. What else? Yes. And then also it can dry things out. So it's good for like acne, for eczema, for insect bites, boils, ulcers, again, any type of like infection potentially. If you have a bad infection, go to the doctor, right? We have said over and over again, we very much believe in doctors. But like if you want some like home remedies, and this is really good for any type of topical stuff. Also, so here we are, we're talking about it used internally. And so historically it's been used to treat diarrhea, food poisoning because it binds to the toxins, parasites.
Heard about parasites. Same with
Yeah,
like food grade diatomaceous earth is same with
yeah,
parasites. Both of
yeah,
those. Yeah.
yeah. Agreed. Um, and it is still used, like a specific type of clay is still an ingredient in some anti-diarrheal medicines, but you know,
Yeah.
use at your own risk. And then we have oral health. So clay has been used historically to help with teeth properties and oral properties. It's a little bit abrasive, it's a little gritty, and so it can help kind of clean that way, like it scrapes stuff off, and it also has antibacterial properties. So it has been used historically in like tooth powders and toothpaste, like old, like original toothpaste, and then in some traditions, some mouthwashes. I think that for one of the herbs, at least one that we talked about, it had a lot of oral health benefits, and we talked about like making a mouthwash which is just an infusion that you like swish around your mouth and then spit out. And so something like that, you could add clay to that. So again, you're not drinking it, but you're swishing it around in your mouth and then spitting it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then detoxifying. So again, we're talking about all of the good that it can do. It's good against, it's antibacterial, so it can be used as like an antibiotic. And it's also been shown, a couple studies show that it helps even when people have antibiotic resistant bacteria. So like antibiotics aren't enough for them at this point, then if you add clay to it, it can kind of help, which is interesting. Those are relatively new studies. And then also the alkaline pH level can help with this, with like the absorbing of the moisture and the microbes in the gut.
Interesting.
Now, disclaimer, not all clays are safe to eat, especially if you're using a very processed clay, because studies have shown that some very processed clay actually contains arsenic and lead, and then other types of stuff. So just be very mindful. Ingest at your own risk. I usually don't. I'll use it as a tooth powder or a mouthwash or like topically, but I don't really ingest clay. So just be
Yeah.
mindful, especially if you have kidney issues.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I put a little snippet here. A lot of this stuff we've already kind of talked about because the way that you would use it magically is the same way that it's been used like historically and in folklores. And so we're going to kind of repeat some stuff here. But a lot of it, so you can use it as part of like makeup or as part of like a face mask for protective qualities or to like keep things away, to ward off, to banish. And then we can also think of the medicinal effects as well. So again, it's abrasive, it scrubs things, it absorbs things. And so anything, any type of working that has anything to do with that type of stuff is going to be beneficial.
Nice.
Yeah. So people, if you wanted to, especially so like a little poppet, especially if you want to use some type of like graveyard clay or dirt, could be very beneficial. Um, and breaking curses or breaking bindings because it's something that you can destroy. So again, you can like put the thing that you want to do away with in this clay and then potentially destroy it or bury the clay. But you could also do that as like breaking some type of binding that you have, right? So creating this poppet or something, or maybe I would even make like a use the clay to make like rope, like it making it
Ooh,
like look like rope and then breaking that or destroying that. That's probably how I would utilize that.
rad.
And then some sources. I do want to say something real quick though. So
Uh-huh.
we're going to talk next week about specific ways that you can use the clay, but my first thought was to put it in like a carpet dusting powder. So if you're not familiar with that, you make your own like powder, usually with powdered herbs and stuff, and then you spray it on your, or you dump it on your carpet, and then you can vacuum it. You can also add like essential oils and stuff to give it smell. And so the idea is the herbs and stuff that you sprinkle are like absorbing the properties, and then you're vacuuming it up. And so I thought, oh, clay would be great. Don't do that. I guess it is really hard to get clay out of carpet. And so I was like, I'm glad that I looked that up,
It is
actually.
important to know. Yeah.
Yes. But
So
I was
don't
thinking
do
if
it.
you wanted to do like corners, like I do like corner protections
Yes,
and stuff
you
with just like
sure
a little pinch in
do.
the corner, you can do it that way. But don't sprinkle it over your whole carpet.
Yep. Sounds
Um,
good. That's great.
yay.
I love that. I love that. That is so awesome. Clay, I would have never
Good.
thought. It was so
Yeah.
good. What a good surprise.
Good. Yay.
Awesome.
Uh,
Well, I
awesome.
hope everybody learned a lot, and I hope you guys all are excited about learning more about how you can use clay practically in probably a couple weeks because I'll space these out. So,
Mm.
anyway, we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.